Chapter 16. Mary. Mary woke excited and nervous Sunday morning. She was looking forward to attending church with Mr. Brown, but she was still worried that someone might find out about her past and use it against him. "Good morning, Mary," Mrs. Nelson said when she entered the kitchen. "Are you ready for today?" "I suppose, but I'm still nervous. Like you, Mr. Brown doesn't seem to care about my past, but I know there are others who will, and I don't want to make things harder for him. He's already stressed with the new store opening." "And that is what we have God for. Do you know in the Bible it says, 'Who of you by worrying can add a single hour to your life?' It goes on to say that God takes care of the flowers, and we are much more important than they are, so why would God not take care of us?" Mary smiled at the elderly woman. "I haven't heard that part. Perhaps I'll ask Elizabeth to add that one to our lessons. She's teaching me to read." "Well, that is wonderful." Mrs. Nelson pulled the leftover bread from the day before out and glanced around the kitchen. "It's a good skill to have. Can you get me a skillet ready for some eggs?" Mary nodded and pulled out a large skillet, placing it on the stove. "Is Mr. Brown picking you up here or meeting you at the church?" Mrs. Nelson asked, as she brought over a half-dozen eggs in a bowl and handed it to Mary. "He's picking me up here," Mary said as she lit the burner. "I offered to meet him at the store since it's on the way to church, but he wouldn't hear of it." "Well, that is the way courting works," Mrs. Nelson said with a chuckle. "At least if I'm remembering correctly. It's been a while since I was courted." "I've never been courted before." Mary picked up an egg and cracked it in the skillet. "So I'm not even sure what to expect." "I expect he'll come around here more often," Mrs. Nelson said. "But beyond that, it isn't much different than spending time together until you choose to marry." "Oh, I think you are assuming too much, Mrs. Nelson. I'm old and have no idea how to be a wife." "There is little you do differently besides sharing a bed, so I doubt you would have any trouble being a wife. Regardless, I have a feeling you'll be good for each other. And in case you hadn't noticed, single women are hard to find in this town." That was definitely true. There were some single younger women like Sarah Miller, but she was one of the only older women who didn't have a husband. Was that the reason Mr. Brown had invited her to church? She certainly hoped it wasn't the only reason, but it nagged her nonetheless. As they sat down for breakfast, a loud clap of thunder sounded and Mary looked to the window. "Oh no, is it going to rain?" Mrs. Nelson crossed to the window and looked out. "The sky is pretty gray. I know we can use the rain, but I hope it holds out till after church." "Me too." Mary knew they could walk in the rain, but it wouldn't be as enjoyable. Mrs. Nelson returned to the table. "We'll just add that to our prayer this morning." Mary closed her eyes and let Mrs. Nelson pray, and though she still wasn't sure she believed in God or prayer, she found herself hoping that God would hear the prayer and keep the rain away until they made it into church. As soon as breakfast was over, she helped Mrs. Nelson clear the dishes, and then she headed to the porch to wait for Mr. Brown. The sky was indeed dark and heavy, and a salty scent hung in the air, the promise of raindrops. "Please hold off just a little bit longer," she thought. A moment later, Mr. Brown appeared, an umbrella hung over his arm. He smiled and waved to her when he saw her. "Thank goodness you brought an umbrella," Mary said, looking once more at the gray sky. "I don't know how much longer we have." "Are we waiting for Mrs. Nelson?" Mr. Brown asked, looking behind her as if expecting the widow to appear. Mary shook her head. "She said someone is coming to get her and she didn't want to ruin our walk." "Well then, let's go." He held out his arm and Mary placed hers inside. Even though this was not their first time walking together, She still felt the heat of a blush climbing her cheeks. Would she ever get used to this feeling?
"Thank you for accompanying me today," Mr. Brown said as they walked toward the church.
"I'm happy to, though I have to tell you that I don't know much about courting."
Mr. Brown flashed her a smile. "That's all right. I don't mind teaching you."
Overhead, another clap of thunder sounded, followed by a flash of lightning, and Mary gripped Mr. Brown's arm tighter.
"Don't worry, we're almost there,"
he said, patting her arm. But as soon as the words were out of his mouth, Mary felt the first drop of rain. He popped open the umbrella, and moments later the skies opened up and rain began to pelt them. Mary squeezed closer to him, but she could still feel the rain on her arms. Thankfully, the church was in sight, and they picked up their pace a bit. She was out of breath, but happy when they reached the door.
"I wish I could sit with you," Mr. Brown said, "but perhaps we can meet up afterward and have lunch at the store?"
"I'd like that," Mary said, and then she turned to find Elizabeth.